And if you don't mind just going on mute, and then when I introduced you, then we'll go from there. Now, I guess we are live right now on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, all those areas. And hopefully, you guys are all listening. So if you are listening, please do let me know and comment as much as you can. And if you have any questions, I will make sure I'll try my best to go and ask him the question. So that's what we're doing today. And thank you again for coming to Back to Basics live on everywhere as always. And thank you for all the support that you all have given me and given this whole podcast that we have started last year. So thank you again, guys. So we're going to be starting in. Hi, folks. My name is Girish Bali, the host for Back to Basics, another Back to Basics for another week. Today, we are going to be talking about Bitcoin. Now, it seems like I've talked about Bitcoin numerous times, but you know what? More the merrier, in many, many different ways to go and talk about it. And this person that I just spoke with just right before this call seems like a cool dude, an awesome person to chat with and try to understand what Bitcoin is all about. Why is a Bitcoin a trend, a fad, or is it here to stay? Those are the questions that we'll be asking. But the main question that we're going to be asking is bars to Bitcoin. What the hell is that? We will figure that out when we get on the call with Justin today. And Justin, how are you? And thanks for coming to Back to Basics.
Hey, how you doing? How you doing? I'm glad to be here. Great introduction, great meeting you. I'm very eager to get it started today, man.
Yeah, thank you again, Justin. So before we, start the details of uh, Bitcoin and everything else that what you do, I ask this question to all my guests, and the question is, what does Back to Basic mean to you?
So before I share that, I want to share if you follow me on any of my social medias, if you send me the word back to Bitcoin, I have a special code for any of your listeners. So back to Bitcoin on all my socials. So I'm gonna share it like I shared in our in our previous questionnaire. It's a story I heard growing up when a reporter, I forgot their name, they said that they had gone into the gym and they saw Kobe Bryant in there and he
Hmm.
was working out. And they said the only thing Kobe was doing was working on a jab, pump fake, and jump shot. Jab, pump fake, jump shot. And he went up to him and said, Kobe, you're the best player in the world. Why are you just working on these simple moves? And Kobe replied, like, well, how do you think I became the best player in the world? So he stuck to what the basics were, and he made them something totally different.
Hmm.
So sticking to the basics means having a great foundation, and when all else lies, it might not be the basic like what you did before. It might not be the basics, but the basics of success. Like perseverance, self awareness. Things I teach. Some of my clients just grit, perseverance, self awareness. Things don't never go away. Those are the basics. So
Yeah, thank you again, Justin, for explaining that. So, guys, just to be clear, what he just said about what is Back to Basics, he did mention it on an email when I sent it to him and when he signed up for this whole thing. So that a synopsis and that story will be on part of the description of the episode when we do officially release this episode. So, Justin, thank you again for that.
no problem.
So now the question is a Bitcoin a fad or is it here to stay? What are your thoughts on that, please?
Well, I share it like I share with all everyone in my masterminds and my one-on-one chats. When when you look at Bitcoin, if it was just a fad, it would already have been destroyed.
Hmm.
Bitcoin has been around since 2008. The first transaction was January 3rd, 2009. So we're going on year 13. And ironically, I saw a report today that Wells Fargo Investment Management had a graph that said Bitcoin is on the same trajectory of hyper adoption as the internet was in 1999. So, in my opinion, and a lot of opinions of others, Bitcoin will be here to stay for a very long time.
Yeah, so thank you again. So this is one person online. He actually said about the censorship and the. So
Oh
what are
yeah.
your thoughts on that and the value transfer? So explain that if you don't mind.
Censorship resistant is meaning that there is no third party interference. No one can just say, hey, we're going to shut off art. For instance, in Canada, where the truckers they were using GoFundMe had decided to shut off their accounts to receive donations. They started receiving donations in Bitcoin. Immutable. You can't copy Bitcoin. You can't make a copy of it. You can't have any counterfeit.
Hmm.
Permissionless, meaning that there is no middleman, so everyone has the same amount of say so. Even though someone might have more Bitcoin than you, we all have to have a consensus agreement on what goes on in Bitcoin.
Hmm.
Decentralized value or transfer, again, it all goes with the same of no middleman, no central authority, and Bitcoin is the only type of internet that we have that has a value transfer. Everything before internet was just information, emails, documents, pictures. Bitcoin and the Bitcoin blockchain is the first of its kind to have a value transfer through the internet.
So let me ask you this. Um, so the word lately has been coming around as metaverse, and
Mhm,
obviously crypto, and then Bitcoin, right?
mhm.
So if I'm not mistaken, and people, if I'm wrong, do let me know. But
Yeah.
Metaverse has been out there since 2003 or maybe 1998 to be exact, right?
Yeah,
But
I mean, my
so
okay, go
do
ahead,
you
bro.
think this is a preparation for the metaverse? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, metaverse, honestly, like you said, it's been around a while. In my opinion, I just look at it as like virtual reality. But it's different. They say it's different universes out there. In my opinion, it just sounds like good marketing to get more people involved. It's like it sounds cool, metaverse. However, I mean, we've read about these types of things. We've probably seen them in movies, but to see them actually happen in real time,
Hmm.
I mean, I have to give it credit. We're in a great change in our life. We're in a great change. So everything we used to see from movies about crazy technologies, they're happening in real time. So granted, the metaverse is, I guess the definition means a lot of universes online or, in the virtual world. But once you're there, I think it'd be pretty much the same as a virtual reality with just different types of realities.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you again. So I'm gonna ask this question. It seems like this question has been going on for a while, and I want to help people in the baby boomers and Gen X's. So if you don't mind, be a little patient if you don't mind when it comes to back to basics.
Okay,
What
no
is
problem.
what is Bitcoin? If you don't mind explaining, everyone, whoever's on there, I understand that you know what it is, but there's a lot of people who don't. So we need to educate everyone as much as we can. So what are your thoughts on that, Justin?
So when you ask what is Bitcoin, we're just going to keep it at the level of what most people could comprehend it to be. So it's a cryptocurrency. All right, it's the very first cryptocurrency of its kind. So that's right there. And it has a lot of different values, but we're only going to talk about three. Those three being a medium of exchange. So just like you would go to a regular market or anywhere, Bitcoin could be used for transactional purposes for businesses. It's a currency. It's a hard money. It's the hardest money to be ever
Hmm.
created. So with it being a currency and the money, you could treat it like that. It's also a storage value. When Bitcoin was first created, it was less than a penny,
Hmm.
and now it's around what $45,000. So it shows it has that, and it's also what I like to call a barrier instrument. You don't really need any type of identity to own Bitcoin, even though they have a lot of on ramp systems out there. So it's just a storage value, a decentralized money, and a medium of exchange.
Yeah. Thank you again, by the way. But when you said transfer, is it free? I mean, is it um rule based? What are your thoughts on that? Is someone really governing this whole entire thing when we're trying to transfer money? uh who's the leader, who's not the leader? I mean, is it as this person says that, so what are
That
your
is.
thoughts on that?
I mean, so he's right. There are no leaders in Bitcoin. Bitcoin was built as a sovereign money, so it's a big community, as Tora Paddle said. It's a big community, and all these people have to contribute. However, there are no leaders. There was the creator. We don't know if it was a man, woman group of people by the name of Satoshi Nakamoto,
Hmm.
and we have what we like to call three levels of consensus. We have miners, we have developers, and we have users.
Hmm.
So all three of these different groups have to come to a consensus and agree on what would be the best movement of Bitcoin. So
Yeah.
there is no one person running Bitcoin. There's no one watching over the transactions. All the transactions are actually automated. They're run by computers.
Hmm.
So and the algorithm, just like everything else. But there are no middlemen. There are no real human involvement in the decision making. For instance, and I'd like to use this one now because it happened in 2020. We had a lot of monetary policy going on,
Hmm.
and so a lot of money was printed out, put into the system for a stimulus. However, we know that that will and did and continuously will devalue the money. So
Right.
when in times like this, when you have a pandemic and you have human emotion involved, at a whim of a writing of a check, your money and power of your money can be affected. However, in Bitcoin, it's been going on the same algorithm since 2008, 2009.
Hmm.
Every 10 minutes, a Bitcoin is said to be mined.
Hmm.
But this is happening all the time, and it's a continual calculated event. So there are no middlemen involved in that. It's just mathematics and electricity and science.
Thank you again, Justin, for explaining that. But so let me ask you this: is obviously Bitcoin is like free,
Hmm.
but it's not secured, is it?
Oh, it's definitely secure. It's the most
Okay,
secure money.
so if it is certainly secured, then how do we the secured key, how do
Hmm.
we make that as valid? And if I lose it, what's going to happen there?
Oh well, so one of the things I teach in our masterminds and our one-on-ones, because that's a great question. It comes up a lot. You don't really have to do anything. Like it's already done for you. So when you have a wallet that you have control of, the private key is what it's called, is already generated for you. You, excuse me, and you do have wallets where you could try to come up with a random amount of words. However, it's not really recommended because most humans are going to come up with the same words. But let's just say you were to lose your phone, and I had a great example of this. It was a married couple. She called and said we moved. I lost my private keys. My husband didn't.
Hmm.
Well, we weren't able to retrieve her Bitcoin because she did not have the private keys. So the
Hmm.
private keys are your lifeline. Your private keys is what can make Bitcoin almost like a retirement account. It'd be something you could pass down through family. It is that we can pretty much guarantee your Bitcoin is at a risk of losing forever because you don't have those private keys.
Yeah, yeah. But Justin, here's another example. Okay,
Okay.
it's a good example, but it's an example.
All
So
right.
let's say someone passes away and
Mm-hmm.
we transfer the money to, let's say, the spouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's obviously rules on that, and there's wills on that, and there's bank transfers, and you know beneficiary when you're transferring that over to the spouse. But Bitcoin, I don't think it's the rule yet and law as of yet. So how does that work?
So we do have some companies provide a service of like real estate attorneys, or you have some services who play the role of, I guess, beneficiary to say, hey, we just like, so let's say it's you, your wife, and a child. Y'all would have a private key, and it would be distributed among the three of you, the four of you, with this company. I think the company's called like Casa,
Hmm.
and they can hold a part of your private keys for you, or you could just have instructions laid out in your will as to what will happen with this Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And that's really one of the key ways. I mean, you could also just have a family secret going on and say, hey, this is the safe. Here's the Bitcoin. This is what you do. If you want to use it now, but I highly advise you to wait longer. I mean, you could do that as well. So since it is not a centralized, it's not a controlled, regulated currency. There are ways that you can go about protecting it as close to as traditional as possible, or you can also choose to protect it as free as possible as well.
Yeah, Justin, thank you again for that. But the reason why I asked that is I actually don't want to go to the bar to the Bitcoin. So why do
Right.
I say that? I just want to explain to everyone that you are the author of From Bars to Bitcoin. Okay, so can you explain how this name started? Obviously, this sounds like a joke, but please explain to me if you don't mind.
So, from bars to Bitcoin, in the book From Bars to Bitcoin, I share my experience when I had gone to prison
Yeah.
and I had come home from prison and learned about Bitcoin. I started the book when I was in high school. I didn't start the book in high school, but the book starts where I'm in high school. My mother and I had lost our home due to the housing market crash. It was pretty early though.
Hmm.
From there, I had a friend of mine that I had gone to school with. We were hanging out at parties, and one of them were murdered. From there, I graduated high school, went to college, dropped out of college, came home, and was hanging around with the wrong crowd, trying to find ways to earn money. And I ended up committing a crime that let me go to prison for 3 years.
Hmm.
And it was in prison when I realized just how brilliant I was, made some dumb decisions, but in prison I had guaranteed that I was going to change my life forever, and I wanted to be a part of something that was real, real legit. I realized how intelligent I was, so I remember coming home and I was hoping and praying for something like Bitcoin. It was like 2016, and my daughter was just born, and I said, man, I just want to be a part of something that is going to change the world. And if you're there early, your life will be changed.
Hmm.
I didn't know I was seeking to be an early adopter or who was chasing disruption.
Hmm.
However, it all happened at the same time.
Hmm.
And I had a friend of mine, Isaiah Jackson. He's the author of Black Bitcoin in Black America.
Hmm.
He's the one who taught me about Bitcoin. And from there, I studied it every day. I was told that it wasn't going to be much by traditional professionals. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, one of the top three banking cities in the country. So you will go up to all these finance people and they'll say, "Yeah, we don't know what you're talking about," or whatever, whatever. But I just kept going at it because I knew that one day the world will need Bitcoin. And then COVID happened, and now here we are.
Yeah, so someone online is actually saying that this is still too early to understand this whole thing, right? But the thing is that they're institutions like the banks, right? They're still not done Bitcoin yet. They're still not done crypto yet.
Mhm.
Into that intensive. So who manages all that? I mean, you manage it online, but then is it sitting somewhere? I mean, like for example, if I go online right now, it's telling me that it's 44,000 right now for one share Bitcoin, right? And this
Right.
is as of today. So, guys, whoever's listening to it is today only. So, whenever you listen to it, it'll be different. But
Mhm.
so, who manages all that? I mean, first of all, I mean, today will be 44,000, later it'll be 20,000. What are
Mhm.
the semantics as to how it goes up and how it goes down, if you have any knowledge of that?
Well, I mean, it's just like anything traditional markets, buyers and sellers. If you have a lot of sellers, price goes what could go up, could go down. However, Bitcoin, what manages that is what we like to call the blockchain.
Mm.
Bitcoin has a blockchain that manages every single transaction that has been recorded in history. But I want to give a little bit more clarification to like the price action. A lot of this takes place because people want to try to guess it like it's a stock or something. However, Bitcoin has a limited supply of 21 million, and it has a date that it will stop what we like to call mining Bitcoin.
Hmm.
So, with that being said, the more people who buy Bitcoin and hold Bitcoin, you have scarcity. And as the years go on, as the price goes up, there's a less and less amount of Bitcoin available.
Hmm.
And so this is a tad bit why the price changes ever so much. However, after a while, it just starts flooring up and up and up because you have a lot of people buying it and not letting it go. And
Hmm.
so the longer they hold it, the longer people are going to find Bitcoin attractive at the higher the price, like we see with companies like Michael Saylor or MicroStrategy, who bought probably the record amount of Bitcoin, 100,000 plus Bitcoins.
Hmm.
So you have those scenarios to where when people are buying it like that and holding it and not selling them, the price has nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you again for that. So I know that I've asked this question before, that what is Bitcoin, which you have given the answer, but what is the future for Bitcoin?
Oh man. Well, let's say it like this: the future of Bitcoin would be the future of the world.
Okay.
If I'll be all the way honest with you, it'll probably be hard to imagine how the world would look right now without Bitcoin, without somewhere to put your money, without somewhere to park your wealth, without somewhere you just can't have, like I said before, a stroke of a pen affect your money. Like in 2008, there were no options. People were just going at the whim of whatever the Fed, the government said that was going to go on with money.
Hmm.
Today, now you see people even deciding, hey, let's give it a shot. So the future of Bitcoin, you could probably see the future of Bitcoin in places like Miami, Austin, Texas, El Salvador, to where El Salvador has made Bitcoin its legal tender.
Hmm.
And within that happening, this can just happen more and more and more to where, let's look at it like this. It's kind of in the phase, and this is a little bit more realistic. We're still kind of in the phase where Blockbuster was around and Netflix was selling. They were
That's
sending
right.
you the CDs in the mail. That's where this is right now with Bitcoin and banks. They're both around, and it seems like Blockbuster won't be going nowhere in no time soon. And then all of a sudden, there's another scenario that happens where disruption comes in. And right now, what you're witnessing is disruption of money.
Hmm.
You're watching a disruption of money, something that has been trying to take place for years from different movements, but now it's here. And in 13 years, it's gone from a speculative asset to legal tender. So that right there is within a record pace of itself. Again, like I mentioned, you have Wells Fargo making statements that Bitcoin is on the brink of hyper adoption.
Hmm.
So we don't there pretty much will be a future. And with all this other technology going on, like all the exponential type of technologies, 3D printing, atomic vehicles,
Hmm.
electric cars, it's only right that this type of internet has a money that fits that. So it's the future. And it was the first of that exponential future.
But that is true. That is the future. But it looks like, let's say, for electrical cars, we don't have a big infrastructure as of yet when
Mhm,
it comes to electrical. Maybe
mhm.
on the West Coast, yes. Maybe on the middle and the East Coast, maybe not. So it's going to take a while till the whole states is kind of covered. Okay. So
Mhm.
same thing with Bitcoin. I think the infrastructure is still not there for the banks and the institutions around us. And
Well,
I
I'll
think
be
they
honest
have
with
no
you.
idea. So what are your thoughts on that?
It's not really meant for them. I'll be see a lot of times in the corporate world and finance world, people are trying to look for a way that it can work side by side. Well, maybe we can integrate Bitcoin with doing this. Like you can play a middleman with Bitcoin as you wish,
Hmm.
but you will not be able to control Bitcoin or control Bitcoin as you do regular money.
Hmm.
So within there, it's in my opinion, it's gonna come a time where number one, more people will be Bitcoiners than there are today.
Hmm.
You're going to have way more politicians in office who are holding Bitcoin. You're going to have way more people who even run the bank owning Bitcoin. They're
Hmm.
not going to continuously find ways to eat themselves as they did with money. So the infrastructure is actually there. It's just that the people in place are not there. The media, the people in Capitol Hill. I mean, we have folks who are past retirement age running office.
Hmm.
So it doesn't really. The only reason is it seems like infrastructure is there because of the people who control said infrastructures.
Hmm. Yeah, thank you again, Justin. But one last question, if you don't mind.
Mhm.
So, when we are transferring, let's say, to the other country, let's say my cousins in UK or other side of the world, let's say Japan or India or whatever. I mean, I'm just making up countries, right? But
Mhm.
who pays the taxes? What happens there? uh, because there's some of the countries are not allowing this whole thing, right? So it's going to take a while till the whole world is on the same page. So what are your thoughts on that part?
So it's like this. It doesn't really matter whether those countries allow transactions. They can't stop transactions.
Hmm.
So, for instance, what I said earlier, it's a decentralized money. It's a decentralized medium of exchange. You can still send your cousin Bitcoin in India. You can still send your people Bitcoin in Nigeria. You can still send people Bitcoin anywhere in the world. There will be no one in the middle to stop that transaction. Now,
Hmm.
as far as what I know, I'm not a tax professional, and this isn't tax advice at all. However, you can't tax what is not turned into your currency. It's hard to tax a currency that's not. I have rarely seen a country do it. And when you start really noticing that you can only, from what I know, you can only pay a tax once you sell. Now, as far as transactions are concerned, that's not for me to find out. That's for the government to find out.
Yeah.
However, the blockchain is public. It's public record, and for those in the profession, who do that, they can definitely sit down and make time to do it. But honestly, there will be no one to stop that transaction from going through.
Yeah. So there's a comment there. Did you see what he said there? Right. So
Bitcoin doesn't care about borders or taxes. Yeah, it's a honey badger. It's the honey badger of money.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So one last question, if you don't mind. It seems like the same person who just commented that he says that education is one thing that we need to start investing on for these Bitcoin stuff, right? And I think your website actually starts doing the classes. Can you explain what you do on that aspect and where I can go and start learning this stuff besides texting you, I guess.
Nah, that's all right. I mean, texting works. So one thing we do, yeah, we educate cybersecurity professionals and just a lot of professionals in general, and also provide strategic growth development for entrepreneurs and enterprises. So what that also has to start with, like you said, education. I have one-on-ones where I teach this to individuals who might be entrepreneurs or someone wanting to build a business. But in the very beginning last year, around 2021, I was just selling courses on Bitcoin. But even before then, when I first started learning about Bitcoin, I was just setting up wallets for people. Like I shared earlier, I had come home from prison and learned about Bitcoin. I used to just set up wallets for people um, randomly in Charlotte. I charged for $20 here or there. So education has been what I've been doing this entire time because there are probably only 20 million people in the world who have some type of a Bitcoin.
Hmm.
And it's even probably 100,000 people who have any real knowledge on Bitcoin globally. So education is very, very big, and there's a big space for it because 99% of the world does not know much of anything about it. And it is going to be the education that allows people to warm up to the idea. One program I'm creating in Miami is a prison reform program to teach that type of education to returning citizens, so they can have a bit of a leg up, learning about the technology as it's working, as it's budding in real time.
Hmm.
But all of my educational materials, people can just reach out to me on LinkedIn or check in if they're on my Twitter or Instagram. I have a link in there that you can just click on that link tree, and they'll talk about one-on-one consultations and how we can set up those meetings. Or again, you can just reach out to me by email, Justin at bitcoinvegan.com.
Yeah, awesome, awesome. Thank you again, Justin, for that.
Yes,
So
sir.
before we leave today, I just want to tell everyone that we are going to be live on February 22nd, also for a different live stuff happening before we sign out today. But Justin, one last thing, if you don't mind, is do you have any last words to anybody around here before you leave today? And how is your journey on Back to Basics so far?
So my journey here is great. I like it. I know we I like how you're on point. You know, I like the conversation. I like the feel, and I like how I can see the comments. This is the first time I can actually see comments on a podcast, so that's neat. My advice for people would be, you know, like the guy said in the comments, you're still early. If you have not bought Bitcoin, you should consider it. Again, this isn't financial advice. However, you should consider it by this time. 13 years, and this is kind of where tech just starts taking off. Again, if you have any problems at all, feel free to reach out. I'm on LinkedIn. It's Justin Rhedrick. We've been providing education to people around the world since 2016. So please feel free to reach out because you should not have to wait forever. You know, don't wait. Don't wait. You know, don't be Blockbuster while Netflix is still sending out CDs. You know, don't be Blockbuster while Netflix is sending out CDs. Go grab you a CD, learn about Bitcoin, and see how the world will start making a little bit more sense to you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Justin, thank you again. And one last comment that someone has actually mentioned is real money works for enemies.
Hey man, that's a Bitcoiner
So,
for you.
well, thank you again for Justin for coming here and explaining to me. And then whenever I get a chance, I will purchase that book and I'll make some arrangements to have that signed by you because I do need to put this on my bookcase up here. So, guys, if you are listening, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel and my Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter also, because we will be doing live stuff almost every other couple of weeks, and we're just going crazy for season 2. And Justin will be released officially on Spotify whenever we release it, and we will let you know. And B Square and the marketings will be out there. So, Justin, thank you again for coming here and making this brighter for all of us and supporting this podcast for ours.
Yes, sir, man. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, thank you. So, before we leave today, here's a quote of the day from Back to Basics. As usual, there's a quote of the day, and hopefully, Justin will like that. The quote of the day is Bitcoin is the most important invention in the history of the world since internet. So, guys, as usual, as always, what do I always say at the end of the episode? And everyone should know this by now, and so does Justin, I think. Everything in life goes back to basics, and that's what we did today, guys. Guys, take care, God bless, and keep on commenting as much as you can on all my episodes because that's the only way for me to learn what new topics do you want and how I can improve on my next episode. As usual, as always, what do I always say? God bless, and I'll see you next week on Back to Basics. Thank you. And we're going to be ending soon. Thank you again, everyone, and God bless. Justin, oh, wait a second. Hold on, hold on. I'm still learning as we go. And with this here, and let me just end the broadcast.